All right, here we go. Here we go. Take two. Take two. What's going on, everybody? Come one, come all. Doing another Friday live stream. Did this last week, and a couple people watched it. A couple people liked it, so I want to do it again, especially on a slow news week. If you even consider this week to be a little slow, it's at least a little slow with the Giants news. At least that everybody wants to talk about, because obviously there's something that's shadowing over this team that nobody wants to talk about. And that's exactly where I'm going to kind of start. But Brian Callahan has been hired. The Giants actually just put out, they sent an email out to everybody that's like subscribed in their regular season ticket holders. And obviously they just announced on their socials the full 2026 Giants coaching staff. So for a while, it's just been John Harbaugh that's on the site. He's been the only coach that's been listed on the site. I can imagine that's going to change. If anything, it has changed. I mean, we're even getting assistants here. We're getting strength and conditioning and performance. That staff as well. Maybe we'll go through some of their titles, even if obviously I'm just interested about the strength and conditioning performance and that staff. And then the offensive and the defensive staffs. Obviously, Brian Callahan being the newest hire of passing game coordinator and the quarterback's coach. That being the newest hire, that makes a lot of sense. So what's going on? Hope everybody's well. Let me know who's hanging out so I know who the heck is in here, because I want to say hi to you. And I was at the warehouse a little earlier, and the Wi-Fi and the internet pooped out. It pooped out. I even brought my dog to work. I brought my dog to the warehouse, and it was a fun time, and it was a good time. But I actually started to talk about Steve Tish. And then that's exactly when the Wi-Fi pooped out, and it makes sense because the man is trying to get us. Did even the tweet go out? What is going on with StreamYard? Is not sending out the tweet, like the better viewed on YouTube tweet. It's very weird. Even the Revival guys had something go wrong with that a couple days ago too. So I want to talk about this Steve Tish thing, because it's at the point where there's a difference between being doing something that's legally wrong and just wrong, right? So even if Steve Tish isn't going to be held accountable by anything in the courts or anything legally, it's very much at the point where it's just flat out wrong, his association with Epstein and whatever he wound up doing. And The Athletic put out another piece this week, and I'm going to read two excerpts of it that I just looked at it and be like, this man can no longer be associated with the Giants. That's the road that needs to happen now. And the process that needs to happen now is this man cannot be no longer associated with the Giants. So I'm going to read those excerpts. In April 2013, Epstein emailed an invitation to Tish to join him for breakfast. And 22 minutes later, Tish responded, absolutely. Epstein's schedule showed a meeting the next morning. Meister later wrote Epstein that Tish was blown away by you in a positive way and he thinks that you are a wonderful and interesting, etc. At the time of that meeting, Epstein had been sued repeatedly by sex abuse victims, served 13 months of work custody release, registered as a level 3 sex offender, the highest risk to reoffend, and had been dubbed a billionaire pervert and sex child creeped by a New York tabloid. So it wasn't like this is, I don't know. I don't know the full Epstein timeline. It wasn't like this is 2009 and there were even just rumors of him, right? It was well known. It was public that this guy was a creep, that this guy was a level 3 sex offender, yet you're still wanting to meet with him. And this is the excerpt that really gets me too. What's happening now with the Department of Justice, and they're having the these House committee meetings about this, and Steve Tish's name is like coming up, right? Since the Department of Justice released more than 3 million emails last month, powerful individuals have had their dealings with Epstein scrutinized. But the Tish-Epstein dynamic, revealed in dozens of unguarded emails exchanged between them in 2013, stands out for how singularly focused it was on Epstein's ability to contact Tish with young women. There was scant talk about philanthropy or business opportunities present in many of other Epstein's relationships. Rather, Epstein, a convicted sex offender, who, when they were communicating with each other, was a known sex offender, a level 3 sex offender, who was charged with sex trafficking before his death in 2019, merely plucked women from his orbit and delivered them to Tish. Again, legally, Will Steve Tish be held accountable? I have no clue, and probably not. I do not want the football team that I root for, the football team that I love, to be associated with this man in any way, shape, or form. That's it. I started to look into the whole Donald Sterling too. We're talking about all the scandals today, aren't we? So I started to look into the Donald Sterling timeline, and I was wondering, so yes, what was the process of Donald Sterling having to sell the Clippers after his scandal? Did he willingly sell the team? Was he able to fight it? And did the NBA force him to sell? Because now, like, I'm thinking about, so obviously Steve Tish is not going to willingly just be like, oh, okay, here's 45, 49, 47, whatever, however many percentage of the team that he owns. Here it is. I'm just going to step down. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. He can make billions of dollars from this, right? $1 billion, $2 billion. I mean, 10% of the Giants just went for $1 billion, and he owns nearly half of it in his family. So he's not just going to be like, all right, I'm done, right? So Donald Sterling, if you don't remember that situation, racist owner for the Los Angeles Clippers, who was caught saying some very, very awful things about African Americans, and then he was forced to basically sell the Clippers. Now, the NBA tried to force a sale that didn't wind up happening. They were starting the process of getting enough votes. Owners were preparing to vote to strip him of the team, which would have required approval by 3/4 of the Board of Governors. They were starting to do that, starting that process. But actually, it was Shelley Sterling, co-trustee of the Sterling Family Trust, his wife, that wound up forcing the sale, forcing him to lose his share of the Lakers. She kind of took over that family trust, and then he wound up getting out. He tried fighting it back in the courts, but then eventually it was ruled that he was deemed incompetent to make some of these decisions, and then that's how Sterling basically lost his share. But still, the Sterling family was able to sell 100% of the Clippers, and I think that went for $2 billion in 2016, 2017. So it took time. It took a lot of fighting, even from Sterling. And even though he legally didn't do anything wrong, this is why I'm comparing it to that. Even though he legally did not do anything wrong, he still had to sell his portion of the team, and that still did happen. I'm now wondering, between the Mara family dynamic, will there be an influence and a push by the Maras to try and get the Tish family out of here? I don't know. Is Julia Koch and the Koch family willing to buy 30% more of the team, 35% more of the team, and Steve Tish's, or not, wouldn't even be 35% more. It would be 50% more. And then I guess would that mean the Koch family would become the majority owners? I have no clue. Here's the only thing I do know: that Steve Tish cannot be associated with the Giants any longer. The new Athletic article that came out, the association is too gross. It's not just weird. It's not just, all right, these rich guys are weird. It's wrong. And even if he legally won't be held accountable, the NFL, this needs to not happen. I don't have the solution as to why and how. Well, I don't have the solution as to how it will be stopped, but it just needs to. So there you go. I need to get that off my chest. I just need to, because reading that Athletic article yesterday, that's awful. And there was even more awful details that are in there. I do not want this man associated with the Giants any longer. And it probably will take time. And that sucks. And it's not just as simple as, this guy's a perv, this guy's weird, get him out. It won't happen like that. All right, that's that. Get Steve Tish out. Staff, Giants coaching staff, that's been announced. And if anybody has any questions, maybe we'll do some Q&A stuff at the end. Giants coaching staff, and the most notable ad since the last time that we all chatted was Brian Callahan. Now, what's really cool about Brian Callahan, he's not going to be calling plays, obviously. Quarterback coach and passing game coordinator. And what's cool just about this staff that's being formed up, Art Stapleton tweeted this out, but it seems like for all the weaknesses, the so-called weaknesses that this offensive staff may have, right? Like Greg Roman, senior offensive assistant. What's his weakness? Well, kind of the passing game, right? He's a kick-ass run game coordinator. He's a kick-ass mind when it comes to the run game. So he's kind of supplementing, a guy like Greg Roman is supplementing a guy like Matt Nagy, who Matt Nagy extremely worried about Matt Nagy and his run game design, right? But that's why you have a guy like Greg Roman. But why do you like Matt Nagy? Well, it seems like he can run an offense that fits Jackson Dart's strengths, right? The RPO shotgun-based quick release offense. That feels like that can fit Jackson Dart's strengths. Even Mitchell Trubisky, obviously we know Patrick Mahomes can do this too. The improvisation, when you hold on to the ball for 2.5 seconds and 3 seconds or longer, Mitchell Trubisky had a lot of his best plays with Chicago were coming with improving and holding on to the ball. We know that Mahomes can kind of do that as well. Matt Nagy is coming from that kind of mindset. Okay. So those two kind of off balance with each other. And then you get Brian Callahan in here. And even though Brian Callahan doesn't necessarily run like this perfect offense, especially in Chicago, right? Well, then you get Matt Nagy didn't. But then you got a guy like Brian Callahan in here who is going to be working directly with the quarterbacks, passing game coordinator. And what do you feel really good about what the Bengals have been able to do over the last couple of years? Well, it's throw the damn ball. That's what they've been able to do really, really well. So all these guys are kind of balancing off of each other. And I think they can complement each other really, really well. Liam, what's going on, man? Hope you're hanging in there. Nice to see you. Yeah, so I want to read you the excerpt that I got from my guy Justin at John Boy Media, who is also a diehard Bengals fan. And I posted this on Twitter the other day, but just in case you didn't see it, not everybody has Twitter. So Justin, I love leaning on analysis from other fans of other teams. Those fans that live and die, just like we do with the Giants, but those fans that live and die with the everyday moves, everyday decisions, I love leaning on their analysis on certain players and on certain coaches when they come from other teams. That's why I love having these connections. A literal child of the game. Callahan breathed football from day one, heralded as an excellent communicator in the Bengals organization, did a great job of collaborating, creating, and explaining a top-tier passing offense, Zach's right-hand man since day one. The two were basically bonded at the hip, that being Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, and Brian Callahan. Burrow has nothing but great things to say about Callahan regarding his development. Also a top-tier person, a Bengals beat writer. Bengals beat writer's wife passed away recently, and Callahan and Zach Taylor paid for the entire thing. An excellent hire for a team with a promising talented quarterback. I also wanted to look into what specifically are some things that Joe Burrow has said about Brian Callahan. Some basic quotes, right? Callie's played a huge role in my success throughout my career so far, and so I owe Callie a lot, and that's helped me improve my game. He helped me in how I approach the game and how I think about football the whole time he was there, so I'm very grateful for him. When Callahan first got the job with Tennessee, Callie's played a huge role in my success throughout my career. He's helped me improve my game and how I approach my game, how I think about football the whole time he was here. One thing I really want to talk about too, there's a specific story about what Callahan did with Burrow early on and showing him like Peyton Manning. Like I wanted to know like exactly, not just, okay, Callahan had a big impact, but what specifically did he do with Joe Burrow? And are there examples of that? And there are. So Callahan had Burrow study Peyton Manning tape during the pandemic and early in his career to refine vocal command at the line of scrimmage and pre-snap mechanics, which Burrow used as a model rather than a copy and paste. So I really like that, because what specifically did Brian Callahan do to help Joe Burrow? I think that's still a big part and a big area in which Jackson Dart does need to grow. I was very impressed at certain times. I think there was a touchdown against the Patriots, which he killed a play. He had some sort of pre-snap communication with Darius Slayton at the line that it directly led to a touchdown on that play. So I was pretty impressed to see Jackson Dart's ability to command the line of scrimmage. But also, it was very obvious, at least to me, that the Giants were consistently breaking the huddle with 20, 22 seconds left on the play clock, getting up to the line. So then Mike Kafka in Jackson Dart's ear has plenty of time to communicate to Jackson Dart, this is what you're seeing at the line. And that's not something that should go away. Like I like a team that breaks the huddle quick, gets up to the line, and it allows a quarterback a lot of time to diagnose what's going on at the line. Maybe not even just for the coordinator and the play caller to be in your ear to help you diagnose, but even just the quarterback without that, even if they're not relying on that, I still think that's a good thing. You're avoiding pre-snap penalty. You're avoiding the delay of game penalties. How many times was it a problem with Eli and Kevin Gilbride of you're breaking the huddle with 10 seconds left. Eli's the guy that likes to diagnose at the line, and then you're getting all these delay of game penalties. So I hope that continues, but also especially knowing the type of offense that Jackson Dart came from with Ole Miss, knowing the conversation that he had with John Gruden pre-draft during that Gruden QB camp, they did not at Ole Miss have to rely on the quarterbacks to call things out, at the line and really identify things on defense. So they didn't even have a freaking snap count, for crying out loud. So I still want Jackson Dart to be as prepared, to be as detailed as possible when it comes to how can I win pre-snap. And if that's what Callahan can kind of step in and do, because I think Burrow is really good at it. Burrow is super, super good at it. Burrow is super, super smart, even in his ability to navigate the pocket, post-snap, and things like that. If Callahan can have that same kind of influence from a pre-snap basis to help Jackson Dart out, I think that is absolutely huge. And that's just a specific example. So, hey, Jackson Dart, watch Peyton Manning. And that ain't a bad guy to watch out for. Burrow had specifically highlighted how Callahan structures the offense around what he likes and gives him veto power over concepts. If I have reservations about a specific route within a concept, I voice my concerns, and there's no hesitation in adjusting it. These are Burrow's words. That's not the case with every coach. Some are adamant about adhering to their vision. They insist on executing plays as designed. Brian doesn't operate that way. This empowerment allows me to play freely, quickly, and physically while fully comprehending my role. I mean, that's typical coach speak too. I heard that about Dable. We're not going to be tied to just one specific concept. We're not going to be tied to one specific concept. We're going to have influence from our players and things like that. Yes, I did say 15 seconds communications get cut off. That's why the Giants broke the huddle so early this year. CDP, Excel. That's what I said. So I like Brian Callahan. I like it. I think it's good. Passing game coordinator. Balances, again, more balance off of Matt, whatever weaknesses we feel about Matt Nagy. Feel more good about the total staff that they're compiling. There's a lot of cooks in this kitchen, though, I will say. And I think that's a good thing. Like, I don't know. Obviously, it could be a bad thing if there's a lot of differences of opinion, right? But I'm not going to sit here and be like, I think it's going to go wrong before they barely have even all gotten into a room with each other. But it still is a lot of different voices. And Greg Roman and John Harbaugh obviously speak a very similar type of language because they've physically been in each other. They physically have been in the same space for a very long time before. Matt Nagy, coming from Andy Reid, obviously there's going to be a similar shared interest there. And Andy Reid and John Harbaugh are close. They worked with each other in Philadelphia, most obviously. What I'm most fascinated from the offensive perspective is personnel. And what is this personnel going to look like? Because now you have added another person that likes to go 11 personnel and very spread, right? Matt Nagy, same thing. Very spread, RPO, running 65% of the time 11 personnel with the Chicago Bears. We know how often that the Chiefs have run out of the shotgun before, right? And how they like to put wide receivers on the field or even just spread the field, right? That's what they like to do. Meanwhile, you have Harbaugh, who historically has not really done that. And then you have Greg Roman, who definitely has not spread out the field. I mean, they went more tight end and fullback and Patrick Ricard heavy during the Greg Roman years than the Todd Monken years. So interesting dynamic between those four guys that are going to be running the offense, right? John Harbaugh obviously running the team, but he's running the offense as well. It's his team. It's his vision. But then you have Matt Nagy. You have Zach Taylor coming from one type of mindset, a throw-first mindset, a throw-first spread mindset. And then you have John Harbaugh and Greg Roman coming from a run-first tight concept and big formation concept. Those are two very different mentalities, and it's not about who's going to win, but it's just about, well, what is the identity going to be? What is the full identity going to be? And I don't know. And I think we're going to start to see that developed in free agency. I think that's when you're like, is Patrick Ricard going to be on the team? Is another fullback going to be on the team? Yes or no? And I think that those questions will start to be answered in free agency. I want the Giants, regardless of what that answer is in terms of what their personnel identity is going to be, I hope they get bigger on the offensive line. I want them to get bigger size-wise. I think that's a paramount, a necessity this offseason to get bigger. That's the best teams and the best offensive lines in football are heavy. They move people. I think this Giants offensive line, they're a very good finesse unit. I don't think they're a kick-ass run blocking unit. I think they're a very good pass blocking unit, depending on who comes back and who's starting for you, right? I think they were very well coached, but I don't think the players are these kick-ass players. I think they're light. They're light players. So what's your identity going to be that way? And that's what I'm thinking about offensively, and I'm excited to try and get that answer during free agency. So they announced the full staff. Here's what I'll say about the again, one more note on the offensive staff before I get to the full staff. There's a lot of there's a lot of experience with the whole team, and that'll be my whole point with the whole team. I don't know how much influence or value this has, right? But this offensive staff, let's specifically, they have won a lot of football games, right? Brian Callahan, obviously with the Titans, did not do a lot of winning. Did a lot of winning with Cincinnati as the offense coordinator. Made a Super Bowl. Won a lot of football games. Had playoff success. Even beat the Chiefs a couple times, right? Matt Nagy even won games with the Chicago Bears, even though the offense looked awful, even though the offense was not very good. Won a lot of football games there. Won even more football games with Kansas City. Won Super Bowls with the Kansas City Chiefs. Greg Roman, for all of his flaws, all that guy has done is win football games. 49ers, Ravens, Chargers. For all of his flaws and all the reasons why Greg Roman can't be a long-term sustainable option at offensive coordinator for you, the dude wins football games. And then, of course, that's led by John Harbaugh, who's done a lot of winning himself over the last 18 years. So this is, out of all kind of takes I have, that this feels like very sports radio-ish. It feels very sports radio takey. But the offensive staff, for all this shit that I feel like it's kind of been given because of certain guys that have failed in certain positions. Well, you want to know what? They're not in those positions anymore. Matt Nagy's not a head coach. Brian Callahan's not the head coach. Greg Roman's not even the offense coordinator. All these guys are like in lesser roles and lesser titles, yet they're the titles that they've had in which they've won, they kind of have right now. So they win. There's a lot of winning that has gone on. So I don't know how much that matters. I don't know what the value of that fully is, but it's there. So they announced the full staff. And I will say, man, like up and down, this staff has a shit ton of play calling experience. Willie Taggart, former head coach, I'm pretty sure, and also play caller. Let me look this up. Let me make sure I have my memory right. Yeah, longtime head coach, Western Kentucky, South Florida, Oregon. Yeah, before jumping to the NFL. He was a play caller at one point. Mike Bloomgren, offensive line coach, obviously former head coach at Rice, former play caller himself. Tim Kelly, former play caller with the Tennessee Titans as well. There is a lot of experience. Charlie Bullen, former defense coordinator, or this year with the Giants. Frank Bush, former defense coordinator himself, 30-plus year coaching veteran. There is a lot of experience of guys that have called plays on this team before, and I think that's pretty significant. I think that's pretty good. It's always tough to, I hate kind of talking about staffs because it's like, oh, this is important. This is valuable. Is it? It's good if they win, and it's bad if they lose. So anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions, man? I'm kind of thrown off because I have been at the warehouse, and then I'm now coming home, and I kind of want the weekend to start, and my brain is all, I was ready to roll at 1 o'clock this afternoon, and I feel like I'm like in a bleh kind of mood. So appreciate everybody hanging out. They did announce the full staff. What I want to do is I want to read the titles. I want to read the titles of some of the strength and conditioning coordinators that they have, the strength and conditioning staff that they have. 2026 strength and conditioning performance coaching staff. Aaron Wellman is the executive director of player performance. Ron Scherft, the director of strength and conditioning. Chris Allen, assistant strength and conditioning coach. Okay. So now we have 5 more roles of various people. Sam Code, performance manager, assistant strength and conditioning coach. Brian Ellis is another assistant strength and conditioning coach. Matthew Frakes is the director of player nutrition. Mark Naylor, never knew her, assistant strength and conditioning coach. A lot of assistant strength and conditioning coaches. And Drew Wilson is assistant director of strength and conditioning. I thought there would be some weird titles. I was hoping there for some weird titles. I feel like that's a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 just on the surface. That's 8 people on the graphic, simply just for strength and conditioning and performance coaching staff. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 people on the offensive staff. That includes quality control coaches, offense quality control coaches. That includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That includes like 5 like assistants, and Greg Roman being a senior offensive assistant in that. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then there's 10 defensive coaches. So they almost have as many coaches on the strength and conditioning staff as offensive defense coaches. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. I wish I knew enough about what happens in like an organization to like what really makes a strength and what really makes a strength and conditioning staff like click? Like what's really like their goals, their day-to-day stuff? I don't know because I'm not in the building. So I was hitting a good groove earlier. I actually know a former director of strength and conditioning for Rutgers, and he was also with the Jets previously as well with Todd Bowles. I may talk to him and be like, what do these people do? Like what's when John Harbaugh wants to like change things up, what is he trying to change up? Because it was a huge part of his contract negotiation of kind of getting here about changing up that strength and conditioning staff. Thoughts on free agency signings? Who you wanted the Giants to go after? What's interesting about that? So that's a good transition. You know, when they announced the staff, then one of the guys that I do want to talk about on the defensive side, Donald D'Alessio, he is the passing game coordinator for the Giants. I want to make sure I get that right. Yeah, he's the defensive pass game coordinator. So he was previously with the Chiefs. There's a couple Chiefs defensive backs that are going to be free agents that I think the Giants should go after. So I'm going to pull up free agent rankings. And I'm going to look at some of these Chiefs players because I think some of them are pretty fascinating. There's some Chiefs secondary players that I think are worth keeping an eye out for. Well, first of all, there's Leo Chanel, who I hope that they bring in, who's like an interior linebacker. Then you also have Jalen Watson from the Chiefs as well, who he's definitely more of a starting player. Probably going to get a contract that's near at around 40 to 50 million. But I'm even thinking about Joshua Williams from the Kansas City Chiefs as well. He was hurt all through 2025, and not really a full-time starter for the Chiefs, but I think he could be a really, really good depth player that the Giants could pick up. If you want to get Deonte Banks out of here, even if you want to bring back Cordell Flott, I think Joshua Williams can be a signing. The fact that he didn't really play in 2025, just 17 snaps, and he was hurt, I think that can make him affordable, but I think he can serve a very, very valuable depth role. And that definitely will not stop you from going and drafting another corner if you want if you want to do so as well. And those are the two main headlines in terms of the secondary. But obviously there's Leo Chanel, there's Jalen Watson, who that would be, you gotta spend more for him. And then there's Joshua Williams from the Kansas City Chiefs as well, who I think could be a good value. I think he makes a lot of plays on the football himself. Like, he's pretty surprisingly, you'd be surprised how many plays he makes on the football, despite only playing, around 400 snaps every single season. So that hire was quite interesting to me because I like the staff. I like the secondary that the Chiefs have had over the last couple of years. And the Giants just got a coach on their coaching staff now who's going to be a passing game coordinator, and only a passing game coordinator, by the way. Only a passing game coordinator. Usually you have like defensive pass game coordinator. Usually you have like secondary coach / pass game coordinator. Even Brian Callahan is a quarterback's coach / passing game coordinator. You have a separate. Addison Lynch is the defensive backs coach, and then Donald D'Asalio is the defensive pass game coordinator. Interesting. Thanks for the super chat. 1 to 3 possible trade targets that you would want the Giants to try and obtain if possible. I don't want the Giants trading for anybody, really, unless it's like if you feel like you want somebody and it costs you a 6th-round pick, like an Isaiah Simmons trade, Boogie Basham trade. Even though don't do that with Boogie Basham. It worked with Isaiah Simmons though. Like I will take trading away a 7th-round pick. Giants don't have a 7th-round pick, I don't think. They just have 3 6th-rounders. So if you want to trade one of those 6th-rounders for a player, then sure, then fine. But I am not trading for anybody if it costs you a day 2 or definitely day 1 pick. I want the Giants to be in a position where they're trading back this offseason, where they're trading maybe away players. Like I'm not asking for this, but like Kayvon Thibodeau, that could possibly recoup you an extra day 2 pick. Because it's going to suck when we're going to be picking in the early 30s, in the mid 30s in round 2. And then you're going to have to wait until the next day at noon, Saturday at noon, after picking your player in the 2nd round. Then you won't have another one until the 4th. So there you go. What else, guys? What else? I've been going for 32 minutes. So could always end it there. Get me some good questions. Talked about Steve Tish at the top. Talked about Brian Callahan. It's going to show some Peyton Manning stuff. I do want to go through, maybe this can be next week's live stream too. I played that game, that simulation game, that GM simulation game, a couple weeks back, Super Bowl Sunday, Stick to the Model. And he's made like updates to it like almost every single day. I really check it out. Football Stats Guy at Stick to the Model. I streamed it last week, Super Bowl Sunday, and I included the link. If you really want to find the link, I included the link in the description if you want to play it yourself. But it's a simulator of the Giants offseason. So I may do that next week because there's really been some nice changes made to that. But other than that, that's basically it. That's all that I got for you. Glad that Charlie Boolin's officially back as the outside linebackers coach, and he got a title added to him, defensive run game coordinator. I like that Charlie Boolin's back because he seemed to be a very highly coveted and covered guy this offseason. That teams wanted him. Like a lot of teams were very, very interested in him, and seeing that Kayvon Thibodeau was playing the best football of his career early on in the year. It was the best football that he played of his career. I don't care if the sacks weren't necessarily there. He was getting a lot of quarterback hits, by the way. Abdul Carter played awesome football when he took over as defensive coordinator, when there was a different kind of leadership structure in the building. But Abdul Carter had a pretty good year from start to finish, but obviously the last 5 games of the year, he was very, very freaking good. Would have won Defensive Rookie of the Year if he was able to extend those 5 games, even into 10 games. I think he would have won possibly Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then obviously Brian Burns having a career year himself. This is the second year that Charlie Boulin has worked with Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. Kayvon Thibodeau showed good ability in 2024, and then 2025 looked even better at the start of the year. And then Brian Burns continued to really take a step up in 2025, obviously having the best year of his career. Not just stats and numbers wise, because there's a portion of Brian Burns' year that is inflated a little bit by untouched pressures and untouched sacks. But Burns just looked really good, and he just dominated. He was very, very good against the run. I mean, the ability that the Giants had to put Brian Burns at times at off ball, and him making plays out in coverage and screens and in the run, that was really, really cool and impressive. So I'm really glad Charlie Boulin is still here. He's going to get to work with Abdul Carter for another year. He's going to get to work with Kayvon Thibodeau for another year, and he gets to work with Brian Burns for another year. Obviously in a system that will not be as putrid and as bad as Shane Bowen. And I'm feeling very confident in that. Feeling very confident in that. After watching the Super Bowl, if we just get defense and offensive line this offseason and everyone stays healthy, I think I'd be happy. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's every year a lot of teams are saying that. It's just about getting the right guys in here, right? Because even 2022, you get an edge rusher in Kayvon, and then you get Evan Neal at right tackle. And oh my God, we even draft Josh Azudu with the 67th overall pick. Oh my God, don't you feel like we're starting to fix that offensive line? And it was the exact opposite of you actually made it worse with those two players. So it's about getting the right guys in here too. It's not just spending top dollar and allocating a bunch of resources to it. You have to get it right, because there's teams every year that try and get it right and they spend top dollar and top resources on it. But if the players are still bad, then you haven't actually fixed the problem. So especially, I don't know what they're going to do interior D-line wise. I think that gets very, very difficult unless you're talking about pick 37, that second round pick. Unless you're talking about that, I don't know where will be the full opportunity to really get better interior D-line wise. I'm not the biggest believer in going out in free agency and spending top dollar on those guys. Obviously, it worked for the Patriots for Milton Williams, but look at how much he's getting paid, though. You still have Dexter Lawrence in that same room. That would be a lot of money that's allocated to. I mean, you have two first-round salaries in Kayvon Thibodeau and Abdul Carter. Then you have Brian Burns' salary. Then you have Dexter Lawrence's salary, who he's probably going to ask for more money this offseason. And then you're going to spend big money on another interior D lineman. That's a lot of resources. And, hey, I wouldn't be complaining about it, but that's a lot of resources that's allocated to that front four, right? But then if you don't take one, I think round one, they're probably not going to take an interior D line unless you really trade back. And then there's a Peter Woods, a Caleb Banks, somebody like that. But then you have the potential of a Lee Hunter being available. There's a really good interior defense alignment from Ohio State that's probably not even going to slide to 37. So how is that going to get fixed? Kind of just looking at what this offseason can be. The answer may be, it may not be fixed this offseason, but how are you going to at least patch it for 2026? So then eventually when it makes sense to spend a first-round pick, a second-round pick on a guy, when will that guy come in? And the truth about interior defense alignment too, and drafting them, is that they typically do take years to fully develop, which that's where I kind of credit to bring in another staff member. Not really a ton of info on Dennis Johnson, obviously ex-Ravens defensive line coach. He has been in a couple different places as well, but I give credit to Dennis Johnson for the last 2 years since he's been the Ravens defensive line coach. That's when Travis Jones really fully broke out. That was a pick in the 2023-2022 draft class, a second-round pick who I really liked, that of UConn. And it took him a couple years to really develop, and it was under Dennis Johnson that Travis Jones started having his best years, started getting after the quarterback a little bit, and really solidifying himself as a really good run defender. He is staying in Baltimore, and Baltimore just extended him. So Nnamdi Amatabuke, or Justin Amatabuke, I know he changed his name. He didn't play a lot this year, and even 2024, the sack total came down. 2024, Amatabuke was still a Pro Bowler. 2023, when Dennis Johnson was not there, and that was Anthony Weaver's position, That's when Matabuke had his double-digit sack year, and that's really when he earned that contract. But still had a solid 2024 under Dennis Johnson. So that's a little bit on the D-line coach. Any thoughts on the future of Dexter Lawrence? I haven't had any full thoughts or kind of updated thoughts since Sean and I have kind of like talked about him on the show. I really hope the conversation is either going to happen or has happened between him and Harbaugh, and I think it has to be Harbaugh. It cannot just be Joe Schoen of sit you down and look at like man to man. I'm going to look you in the eye. Are you here? You know, are you with us? Because if you're not here with us, I don't want you here. Are you physically and emotionally here? Are you a New York Giant? Because if you're not, then I want you out. It just felt like Dex was so in and out this year. You don't go from being a top tier kick-ass player to just having 0 in the stat sheet, right? And I think he's still good. I think the metrics prove that. I think the win rates prove that. He was still good at all these advanced stats, including win rate and not really pressure rate, but he's still good at all that. And he was still double teamed like 70% of the time. He's the most doubled man in football. So I don't know what the future of Dexter Lawrence is. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, I'm just confident that it's all going to work out. There needs to be a conversation. And I don't think the Giants should approach it just as you're under contract, you're here, so you're going to give it your all for us. No, because what was last year then? Last year wasn't just showing up to work out of shape and being hurt in the elbow. That's not what last year was. Maybe that played a little bit of a part in it. That wasn't the full story of 2025 with Dexter Lawrence. It was here, and I'm pointing to my head for our podcast people. It was up here. What happened? The Tish family owns the team, not just him. No way they'll give up their share because of his actions. So, again, like this is complicated, and I don't like talking about it because I don't know a lot about it. But in no way, shape, or form should the Giants want to be associated with this. In no way, shape, or form should the Maras be wanting to associate themselves with this. Like there's enough for me. There's enough for me between these 2 athletic articles and these House Judiciary hearings and the fact that his name is coming up. Like this isn't just journalists, and this isn't just reporters or even just one of us who's just curious. Control effing Steve Tish's name in the files and be like, oh, well, he's here. His name has popped up. They're not just talking about, like the athletic article said, they're not just talking about philanthropy and business. I think there's plenty of that going on. And okay, and if it's just from a business standpoint, all right, whatever. They were not talking about business and philanthropy and business opportunities. They were talking about trading women. That's what this is about. So whether it's legally, whether he legally did not do anything wrong, should not matter here. It should not matter. And you know what? Good for him. If he gets any money out of this, which he probably will, if Donald Sterling was able to fight and try and get money out of it, and if that Sterling family was able to get money out of it, and his wife was able to get money, you know what? Good for her. Good for them. Because I don't own a football team. And if I owned a football team, I would have a lot of say and I would have a lot of influence and I would be able to make money however I want, right? But I don't. So I don't have that same level of influence. All I know is I want him gone and not associated with the Giants. That's what I want. And that probably will take time. Just watched an interview with Matt Robinson, Liam Sheehan, Giants' new assistant defensive line coach. I think this guy is a young defensive line mastermind in the making. I even love, I'll tell you what, I love too. This is the first hire that Harbaugh made. I love Megan Rosberg too. And she does not have any defensive line in her title, which is interesting. She's the assistant to the head coach and defensive assistant. So the only thing defensive she has in her title is defensive assistant. But with the Ravens, she worked with like the front 7, the front 4 in the defensive line. So Liam, if you like Matt Robinson and think that he's a young defensive line mastermind in the making, I really like Megan Rosberg and her ability to communicate with players. And if she's going to be working with the defensive line, then let's go, man. I love it. What's up? What's up, DeLuca, Big Max? Extend that man, pay him his money, he'll be happy. And this is about Dex. Ronnie, yeah. I think that should maybe happen. Even if people are going to get up in arms and mad, why are you giving Dexter Lawrence more money? I think that is the best solution to all of this. Add a couple million. You can even extend him. I think extending Dexter Lawrence for another 2 years and adding a couple million to his deal while also opening up cap space for this year may not be the worst thing in the world. So, all right, 45 minutes. I think I finished strong. The middle of it was rough. I'll say it. Middle of it's rough. Some of the solo stuff is not fun, but I do like these Friday live streams, just very casually answering some questions, very casually talking about some news that's happening. Maybe we can use Fridays to do mock drafts and things like that. And I said maybe even next Friday I'll go back to that. I'll go back to that stick to the model, and we'll simulate another Giants offseason. So I like this staff. I like the experience that they have. I think more people need to be. I think while people are talking about the offensive staff and how important that is, and I understand that, I think people need to be more excited about Denard Wilson. People are. I haven't even seen, like, people aren't even not happy with Denard Wilson. People just aren't even talking about the defense. The talent that this defense has. It still has, like, we were talking about going into the 2025 season. We were talking about how the defense could be a top 10 unit with the pass rush and the additions that they made in the secondary. If they bring back Cordell Flott, who he just signed with the new agency, by the way, a new and bigger and upgraded agency, so he's going to be looking for a little bit of a bag, right? You bring back Cordell Flott after the year that he had, where he was top 3, top 2 in target separation, and he was top 12, top 13 in lowest cover GPA. Paulson Adebo is coming off the full year off of that broken femur. His second year in New York. Drew Phillips coming off a rocky, shaky second year, but you can take some lessons there. A defense that's going to allow him to be very physical and press at the line. I think Denard Wilson, he's going to allow Paulson Adebo to be a very press-heavy corner. And then you're talking about possibly adding Caleb Downs with Tyler Nubin and Javon Holland as the safeties that are kind of around him. Linebackers, we'll see. Very worried about that. Leo Chanel, bring him in. Micah McFadden, bring him, he's back, right? Bring him back. He's a free agent. And then, of course, the pass rush. Which will be the bread and butter and the heartbeat of this defense, right? This defense could still be really good. And even if they're top 15, even if they're above average, I won't put these top 10 expectations on them, but I do think we need to be more excited about this defense that they have right now. Because out of everything that did happen last year, I do think coaching was more or less why that unit did suck. The run game is a Jimmy and Joe's thing. Run game is a Jimmy's and Joe's thing, in my opinion. And that's where linebacker really needs to be upgraded. But where is that going to come from? Rodriguez in the draft, Kyle Lewis in the draft, Leo Chanel. Where is that going to come from, right? Sonny Styles, possibly, if you trade back a little bit. So the run defense does need to get better from a Jimmy's and Joe's standpoint. But with better coaching, even if the run defense is still below average, which at least the coaches that they have on board and the history of Harbaugh indicates that it won't be that god-awful. If they're not an awful run defense, and if they're going to get after the quarterback, and they're going to put the quarterback on the ground, and Abdul Carter is going to get his shit together and play like he did the last 5 games of the year, Brian Burns is coming off of a career year, Kayvon Thibodeau's your number 3, I guess, maybe, if he's on the team and he's not traded. This defense should be able to take over games. And the same things that we were saying about them heading into the 2025 season, we should be saying about them in 2026. And I really do like the Denard Wilson hire, and I don't think that's being talked about enough. When was the last time that Shane extended somebody before free agency hit? AT and Dex, yes. And that's the frustrating thing, is that there was a lot of things that Joe Shane did between 2022 and 2023, like the 2022 draft, trading back in the second round, trading back twice in the second round, and then you get Dane Belton and Micah McFadden basically for free, and then you take Wan'Dale Robinson. That was a really good process. He never replicated that. And then, like before that year, before that 2023 season, you extend AT and Dex for very team-friendly deals. That's one of the reasons why Dex is not happy now, is because it's a good deal for the freaking team. So I guess Jones, well, yeah, I don't really consider Jones that, because that was near free agency. Like, I'm talking like a summer extension. A summer extension. I don't count Daniel Jones on that as well, because that basically was free agency. That was right near the buzzer beater of free agency. So, my guy Anthony Betts, I think Dex is more giving him. I think Dex, it's more about giving him guaranteed money than an extension, at least from the Giants side. I think Dex wants an extension. Wouldn't both? All right, so I guess the Giants would be willing to give him more guaranteed money now, but he wants the extension, and then that would also, with that would also come guaranteed money. I mean, I would just say extend him. Who fucking cares? Like, the dude's good. He's an out of this world player. And you still know it. Like, you still know that he's an out of this world player. I don't think anybody has changed. I still haven't changed my mind on that. So why not just extend him? What harm is that going to do? You can extend him, and then even 3 years from now, the money won't be that bad because the cap is going to continue to grow. Whatever gets him back on board is what I want to do. As my camera is freaking out right now. Everything is going, because I think it's the sun. Everything is going wrong today from a tech standpoint. It's pissing me off. Wilson will be the head coach in 2 years. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that plays out. It's crazy how little of that 2022 offseason by Shane carried forward. What do you mean by that? Like what he did. Now, granted, he was granted a lot of picks inside the top 100 too. So, but yeah, like a lot, like they were pretty timid. They've never been fully crazy aggressive free agency wise. They had to be timid free agency wise in 2022. Mark Lewinsky was the biggest deal they gave out because they didn't have any money. Not trading back in the draft is what kills me. And then the next year in 2023 is when they trade up for Deonte Banks 1 pick, which Deonte Banks costed them a 4th round pick. And then they trade up a ton for Jalen Hyatt, which then costed them picks as well. So that's what makes those players hurt even more. Jalen Hyatt and Deonte Banks aren't just bad players for 4 years. They're bad players who costed you other players who you could have had on the cheap for 4 years. So, all right, now I made it to 53 minutes. I did it. I did it. I'm going to give you guys a challenge. You guys have to ask me more questions earlier. Because when I'm solo and I'm talking to myself, I think I suck balls. I'll say it. I don't think we see something with Dex until after the draft, unless they absolutely have to for money purposes. And free agency camp seems to be the deadline for that. I mean, I guess from a standpoint of, do you want more money now? You maybe would want to get it done before free agency, but I would say training camp for Dex. I mean, I also want to figure out, is Dexter Lawrence here or not? Because if I could trade him now, I feel like his value would be somewhat at its highest now, even coming off of such a bad, awful year. If he gives me another year where he has less than 3 sacks, 2 sacks, then his value gets even tanked even worse. I understand that Dexter Lawrence, if you put him on the trade market now, he may not garner the same I still don't believe this. Connor Hughes said this. I don't believe that. I think there is a team out there that would give a first for Dexter Lawrence. I know Connor Hughes said the most that you would get is a second. If you really shopped Dexter Lawrence, 31 there will be 1 out of 31 other teams that will give you a first round pick. If and only if Dexter Lawrence is not fully bought into being a New York Giant, I mind doing that. If he's not bought in, I'm trading him. If he's bought in, I'm not trading him. Simple as that. Expediting their process in 23 set them back and things fell off the wheel after that. Yeah, 100%. I still don't hate the Waller move. But just, yeah, man. That 23 draft sucked. Sucked. They thought that they were, I think what I thought, they thought that they were just going to be this explosive, kick-ass, like track meet offense in 2023 with Darren Waller, Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton bringing him back too. You know, he's fast. He's a good deep threat. I think that they just thought that they were going to be this, he's a runner, he's a track star offense, and they absolutely was not. Donna Aponte is going to have quite an offseason. What do you think about this, by the way? So for JM Football, I'm trying to come up with different shows. And what I mean by shows is like not podcasts, but like videos, obviously, where I talk and I present things, but they're video essay like videos, right? And one of the things that I thought of is the women in football, the women of football. The Giants have particularly added 2 this offseason, Donna Aponte being one, Megan Rosberg being the other. And I'm like, these are kind of kick-ass people. I mean, they're specifically kick-ass women in football. But Donna Aponte's resume is awesome, and she's been in the league office for the last 9 years, and then she was with the Jets as an accountant, worked her way up the Jets, and then was with the Dolphins the same time as Joe Shane, and has interviewed for GM jobs. And like, I think there's some kick-ass ladies in the NFL. And I kind of want to make a show where I highlight them and how they're up and coming, between whether they are front office executives, whether they are coaches, whether there's flag football players. I don't know. I think that's cool. So I think that's cool. Is Denard? Yes, this is very significant. And I did see this past weekend. JRP, this is a great question. Is Denard Wilson known for running more nickel packages with a chance we draft Caleb Downs? Yes, he is. There was a graphic that came out this weekend about teams that run nickel and dime the most and their ability to stop the run. And the Tennessee Titans were one of the teams in the top right quadrant. And man, if you get in a world where you could put more secondary players on the field and being able to stop the run, that is a match made in heaven, and that's how you win. Sometimes it doesn't always work out like that. But yeah, drafting Caleb Downs, that could just be this presence. I mean, even like Javon Holland, I think, is a decent run defender. Same thing with Tyler Nubin when he's not taking these god awful angles. And then you add Caleb Downs to that mix, and you can play him anywhere, and he can do anything. Yes, I think that 100% fits what Denard Wilson is looking for. Thanks for doing these. They're a lot of fun. Thank you. I'm glad this was fun. I think I redeemed myself for a horrible start. And I'll tell you when I know that I'm good and when I know that I'm bad. Listen to the report card episodes for Talking Giants. The last 2 episodes that aren't Matt Nagy related are 3 hours. The defensive report card episode is an hour and a half. The offensive report card episode is an hour and a half. And I think I did a very good job on that versus compared to the middle part of this live stream. Women in football would be a fun one. I learned a lot. Don't put it at top of the list. Not sure. Yeah, that's the thing where I think it's different. I think I'm trying to think of like things that like nobody else does. And nobody is doing stuff on some kick-ass ladies. But yeah, it's an idea. I'm trying to come up with like 30 new show ideas and then not doing all of them, but then how can we make a list of like 5 good ones and then go from there? So, and I have liked seeing, basically, Anthony Betts, I've liked seeing you confirm that no Isaiah Likely, because didn't he like celebrate when John Harbaugh left the Ravens? Like, wasn't he one of those players to celebrate that? And And I already feel like I was looking at Theo Johnson's splits between him lining up in line and then slot and out wide. Theo Johnson lines up in line like 30% of the time, in the slot like 39% of the time, and then like out wide 14% of the time. So I feel like that's already kind of is Isaiah Likely. Like if Theo Johnson isn't going to be like this full-time inline tight end, I already feel like that would be very redundant if you have Theo Johnson and Isaiah Likely on the same team. Very different body types, but I feel like that would be very redundant. So seeing what Nick and Emmanuel, hear that? Emmanuel does for the Seahawks gets me excited for Downs. Yes. I think Emmanuel is a different like physical beast. Like I think it was Fred Warner that called him like an avatar. He looks like an avatar out there. Just his body type, he's long and long-limbed. That's what Emmanuel really does. Versus Downs, I think is going to win up here. And I'm pointing at my brain. Downs is gonna win being the smartest player on the field. And that's what I really like. And that's what I get excited about. Because if you play fast, it doesn't matter what your 40 time is. If you play fast at safety, if you play fast at linebacker, that's how you're going to win. So, all right. Good stream. Finish strong. Moral of the story. Steve Tish out. Brian Callahan in. Good things. Helped develop Joe Burrow. Cool. Told Joe Burrow, go watch Peyton Manning if you want to have command of the line and pre-snap communication. We want that for Jackson Dart. That's good. Hopefully Callahan will have influence on Jackson Dart with that. That is an area where Jackson Dart needs to get better. More moral of the stories. This offensive coaching staff, it feels like they balance each other out. It feels like the weaknesses of Matt Nagy are covered up by Greg Roman. It feels like Brian Callahan getting in there and developing Jackson Dart. That's kind of what Matt Nagy was able to do in Kansas City. So you get a lot of people, a lot of cooks, but a lot of people with a lot of experience, and they're all going to hopefully balance each other out. Another moral of the story. We should be more excited about the defense. You should be more excited about Denard Wilson, because I do think Denard Wilson is going to be good. And then we also talked about Dexter Lawrence and some other things. Okay, have a good weekend. We'll be back on Tuesday. Sean and I will be talking about something. Go check out the 2 report card episodes, because we literally talked about like every single significant offensive and defensive player on the Giants. And I really liked it. Have a good weekend. Watch the Daytona 500.